Welcome to Names Etched in Stone. It's a windy day out here at Little Cemetery in Seminole, Oklahoma. You can file this case under mysterious. Melody Ann Jones was out fishing at Shawnee Twin Lakes here in Oklahoma. Spent the day with her family. About 10 p.m. at night, her brother drops her off. And she offers for him to stay the night, which was not uncommon. He did stay the night with Melody and her husband, Paul, on a regular basis. But he declined that night of May 4th, 1983. So the next day, Melody's mother receives a call from her work at Dairy Queen here in Seminole. And they said that she had not arrived for her shift. So the mother goes over to their home in Earlsboro, Oklahoma, to check on them and see what was going on, why her daughter was absent from work. And she discovers her son-in-law on the bedroom floor, stabbed twice to death with an unloaded 12 gauge on the bed. Her daughter's belongings and her purse were spilled out in the living room, along with her prescription glasses left behind. And her daughter, Melody Ann Jones, has been missing ever since. There seems to be no trace of her disappearance. Now, investigators speculate that she was abducted, but she's been missing for so long that they have gotten to the point where they're like, we're basically searching for her remains. This case has been investigated, reopened. Well, I don't know if it was ever closed, but recently they searched a property for some of Melody's belongings. And come up short, nothing. A ruby ring that possibly could have belonged to Melody was discovered on that property, but the search came up short, nothing. So it's been 38 years now at the making of this video. We're creeping up on 40 years that this murder and possible abduction took place. The family has purchased a burial plot next to the mother, who passed in 1992 and is buried up by Edmond, Oklahoma, I do believe. And they're just waiting. They've been waiting all these years, all these decades, for an answer to their sister's disappearance. So here we are at the grave of Paul Richard Jones, the husband of Melody Ann Jones. And as you can see, he was 20 years old at the time of his murder. A young man. Both Paul and Melody were working to make it, struggling a little bit, but that's not uncommon with young couples. She was 19, he was 20 years old. at the time that the murder and possible abduction happened. We are going to search for the property that their home stood on at the time. It is since burned down in a grass fire, but I think I can locate the property. I know about where it is, so that's going to be our next journey. And also, we're going to I'm going to try to find the property that they searched for Melanie's belongings, and even though they came up short, it's still part of this story that's ongoing. Like I said, it's coming up on 40 years now, and this young man's murder has gone unsolved, and the case has ran cold more than once. But they did have a suspect, or a person of suspicion. I do not remember his name, but there were a few women who disappeared in Seminole County, or Seminole, Oklahoma, and their bodies were found, but Melanie's was never found. She's still considered a missing person. They've speculated that if she was in on the murder, like someone should have come forward with a guilty conscience by now, but there's been no sign that she is still living. So they even two cases of remains found in other states, one of them being Kentucky, the other one I'm not sure what state it was, but they even tried to match those to Melanie Ann Jones, and it was not her remains. Paul Richard Jones, rest in peace. Okay, here's a Google Maps of the location where the murder and possible abduction took place. Now right here, let's see, this is Benson Park Road, and let's see, Earlsboro area, right off of State Highway 9A, which is Valley View Road. And according to news articles, it doesn't give an exact location, but this down here, I suspect, which I had some help on this from someone who knows about maps, who located this structure. Now, the structure, it did say in the news articles that the house was destroyed by grass fire years ago. I think they said in 2014. This is what we suspect to be the structure of the home where the murder of Paul Jones took place. Okay, right here where this is highlighted, right here, this is where the search took place in 2017, I do believe. Let's see, so that was about 4 years ago. took place on this property. From what I understand, that a ruby ring that was found on this property that may have belonged to Melody Jones, and so they scoured this property and even brought a backhoe out to dig and try to find her remains or some type of clues. But yeah, this property right here, which is a few miles from the property where everything took place. So this is where we're headed, where this water tower is, and we're not going to be able to access the property. We wouldn't do that anyway, because that may be trespassing, and I'm not about trespassing. So I do believe that's a gate there, but I will drive out there and see what we can see from the road of this structure. Okay, up there you can kind of see a water tower back there. See that water tower to the right of the road? That's right where the property, where we suspect that the murder and possible abduction of Melody Jones and Paul Jones took place. And going straight forward is Benson Park Road, and then you have Valley View Road, State Highway 9A. So I'm going to keep my distance. Like I said, I'm not about trespassing or being intrusive. I was going to film some of the property where the investigators searched for Melody's remains, but it looks like it's kind of a private deal. So anyway, I'm going to leave that alone. But anyway, here I'm not saying that this is the place, but I suspect this is the place. Okay, some final thoughts on the disappearance of Melody Jones and the murder of Paul Jones. I have my own speculations, but it really doesn't matter, because there has been teams of investigators over the last almost 40 years trying to solve this case and bring it to a conclusion, but have been unsuccessful. This case, it just seems like every possible motive or explanation that could maybe explain this case and why it happened and why it took place, everything falls short and leads nowhere. And it's just the case has ran cold several times. They searched a property because they thought that they had a possible lead. In 2017, a ruby ring that was found on that property and thought to be a possession of Melody Jones. But that search turned up nothing, and it just seems that every lead, every explanation, every possible motive just hits a dead end, and very quickly. I haven't seen too many cases like this in my life. It's a very intriguing case, but my heart breaks for the family. I couldn't imagine, spending the day with a family member and taking them home and dropping them off, family member or friend, doesn't matter, and never seeing them again. And then you're left to wonder, what happened? I mean, they've speculated that maybe Melody was not happy in her marriage, and she had her husband murdered and took off and changed her identity, but nothing comes close to even explaining like any motive to do that. I mean, they had some minor financial issues, but nothing that would explain a motive to do that. It just leaves you scratching your head, and if she was able to do that, you got to consider, her parents had passed away in the years following her disappearance. I mean, how do you skip out on the comfort of your family in a time of loss like that? I mean, how do you just disappear and stay gone and stay out of sight? I mean, there have been claims that she has been seen, but I don't think obviously none of it led to any conclusion. So, it's a baffling case. And my heart goes out to the family for their loss. What a tragic deal. And her brother said in the news article, in one of the news articles I read, that it just tore his family apart. And I mean, that's understandable. I mean, that's a big loss. They found three women that had been murdered in the Seminole area. They had a person of interest, a person of suspicion, but were unable to connect him to her disappearance and Paul's murder. So, and on it goes. And I just could not imagine, something that is something that has no explanation and just seems to come up short no matter how you try to explain it or find some conclusion. It's just not there, or at least it hasn't come to a conclusion in this almost 40 years that the event happened. Anyway, I'm going to close this up. If you like these kind of videos, please like and subscribe, and hit that notification sign. This has been Names Etched in Stone. Thanks for watching.